First Contact's Folly. High Admiral Zyxtal stood before the massive view screen of the Krylaxian flagship Inevitable Dominance, his iridescent scales gleaming with anticipation. After conquering 12 star systems, Earth would be his 13th victory, a number considered highly auspicious in Krylaxian culture. He adjusted his ceremonial sash one final time as the cameras began recording what would surely become historical footage. Citizens of Earth, he began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into what their databases identified as the planet's most widespread language. Your planet has been chosen for immediate integration into the glorious Krylaxian Empire. Resistance is. He paused dramatically, inadvisable. In the United Nations Emergency Session Chamber, Ambassador Rashida Patel watched the transmission with an expression of careful neutrality. Around her, other delegates whispered frantically among themselves, but she remained still, occasionally making notes on her tablet. 20 years of diplomatic service had taught her that sometimes the best strategy was to let others reveal their weaknesses first. The alien commander continued his speech, detailing the Krylaxians' impressive military history and technological superiority. Rashida noticed he seemed particularly proud of their perfect record of conquests and their flawless adherence to Galactic Council regulations. I see, she murmured, making another note. Computer, access the Galactic Code of Warfare, transmitted during their first contact package. As Zyxtal concluded his speech with a flourish of his ceremonial cape, Rashida raised her hand. The alien seemed momentarily thrown off by the casual gesture. Clearly, he'd expected either immediate surrender or futile declarations of defiance. Yes, Earth representative, he said, his scales shifting to a pattern that their cultural database suggested indicated mild annoyance at the interruption. Thank you for your comprehensive introduction, High Admiral, Rashida said, standing slowly. I have just one small question regarding the Galactic Code of Warfare, Section 1, Paragraph 3, regarding the definition of sentient species requiring formal declaration of war. The High Admiral's scales flickered in what might have been confusion. We have declared war on humanity, as is proper and required. Ah, yes, Rashida smiled, activating her tablet's holographic display. But you see, humanity isn't the only sentient species on Earth. Let me introduce you to some colleagues who have some concerns about your oversight. The chamber's main doors opened, and a diverse group entered. Dr. Coco, a gorilla wearing a professor's tweed jacket, walked in first, signing complex mathematical equations to her assistant. Behind her, a delegation of dolphins appeared on the massive aquatic adapted screens built into the chamber's walls, their quantum neural interfaces allowing them to communicate in multiple languages simultaneously. The High Admiral's scales had lost their luminescent shine. But our surveys were incomplete, Rashida finished. Did you know that octopi have been running underwater cities for the past century? They've just been very private about it. Or that corvids have developed their own internet using quantum entangled neurons. They're quite proud of their encryption methods. As if on cue, a raven flew into the chamber and landed on a perch, activating a small device that projected complex data streams into the air. This is impossible, Zyxtal sputtered. Your species was barely space-capable. Oh, that, Rashida waved her hand dismissively. We've just been the most visible. The dolphins have had quantum computing figured out for decades, they just didn't see the point in leaving the oceans. And the great apes have been solving theoretical physics problems that your scientists are still struggling with, they just preferred to publish under pseudonyms. The High Admiral's second-in-command was now frantically consulting a legal database, their scales turning paler by the second. Sir, they chittered, according to galactic law, we needed to formally declare war on all sentient species of a planet before any invasion could be considered legal. The penalties for oversight are severe. Rashida smiled again, but this time there was steel behind it. I should mention that the Cetacean Science Council has already filed 17 violations with the Galactic Court. The Great Ape Assembly has 32 more in process, and the Corvid Collective, well, they've been especially thorough with the paperwork. The mighty Krylaxian invasion fleet hung in orbit, their weapons primed and ready, yet somehow they seemed less imposing now. High Admiral Zewixtal's scales had taken on a sickly gray tone as he realized that his 13th conquest was rapidly becoming his first diplomatic crisis. Perhaps, Rashida suggested kindly, we should discuss this over tea. I believe the elephant delegation has prepared quite a lovely blend. They're particularly interested in discussing your empire's policy on environmental preservation. Something about Article 7 of the Galactic Environmental Protection Act. In the silence that followed, the only sound was the soft chitter of the raven, who appeared to be sending real-time updates to what Rashida's tablet identified as the interspecies social media network. #Krylaxian was already trending. The diplomatic dance. The Grand Conference Room of the United Nations had been specially modified for what the media was calling the most diverse diplomatic summit in Earth's history. Hovering platforms accommodated aquatic delegates, while climate-controlled sections catered to species requiring specific environmental conditions. High Admiral Zewixtal sat rigidly in his designated chair, his scales shifting between patterns of discomfort and barely concealed frustration. Let me ensure I understand this correctly, he said, his translator struggling to maintain his dignified tone. You're saying that the octopi have filed a separate lawsuit regarding our ship's sonic signatures disrupting their underwater communication networks. Professor Ink, appearing via a sophisticated holographic projection from his deep-sea laboratory, rippled his tentacles in what could only be described as smug satisfaction. Indeed. Our lawyers have prepared a comprehensive 3,000-page document detailing the violations of Galactic Code 447.b, regarding the disruption of pre-existing communication infrastructure of sentient species. Rashida Patel, now officially designated as Earth's interspecies diplomatic coordinator, watched the exchange with carefully concealed amusement. The Krylaxians had arrived expecting to find a single, easily conquerable species. Instead, they'd walked into what was rapidly becoming the galaxy's most complex legal and diplomatic quagmire. Furthermore, announced Dr. Coco, her signs being translated by both human and AI interpreters, the Great Ape Scientific Coalition has concerns about your ship's positioning in low Earth orbit. Your current configuration is blocking several of our quantum telescope arrays. We've been conducting a long-term study of dark matter distribution, and your presence is interfering with our data collection. The High Admiral's second-in-command, Commander VYX, was practically drowning in digital tablets, each displaying a new complaint or legal challenge from yet another Earth species. Sir, they whispered urgently, the Corvids have just submitted another 152 documents for our review. And the Dolphin Quantum Computing Network is requesting immediate access to our legal databases to, quote, ensure proper cross-referencing of all applicable statutes. Zewixtal's scales flickered in patterns of distress. Surely we can reach some form of reasonable settlement, he attempted, trying to salvage something from this diplomatic catastrophe. The Krylaxian Empire is known for its generosity to conquered. I mean, to partner species. A new voice entered the conversation, Dr. Trunk, representative of the Pan-African Elephant Council. Speaking of partnerships, the elderly elephant rumbled through his neural translator, we've been reviewing your empire's resource allocation protocols. According to Article 89.c of the Galactic Fair Trade Agreement, any exploitation of natural resources requires approval from all sentient species inhabiting a planet. Our mathematical models suggest your current proposal would exceed sustainable limits by approximately 847%. The High Admiral's scales had taken on a peculiar shade of gray. All sentient species, he repeated weakly. Oh yes, Rashida confirmed, consulting her tablet. We're still compiling the full list, but at last count, you'll need signatures from the Great Ape Assembly, the Cetacean Alliance, the Corvid Collective, the Octopi Federation, the Elephant Councils of 3 continents, the recently recognized Capuchin Congress. She paused, scrolling down. And those are just the currently registered groups. The parrots have submitted their application for official recognition this morning. Their grasp of quantum linguistics is quite impressive. In orbit, the mighty Krylaxian fleet hung motionless, their weapons systems dormant as their legal teams worked overtime trying to process the flood of documentation. On Earth, #Galactic Lawyers was trending across multiple species' social networks, with memes about the invasion being defeated by paperwork going viral in at least 7 different forms of communication. Commander VYX approached their superior, scales pulsing with anxiety. "Sir, we've just received word from Imperial Command. They're concerned about the potential legal costs. Apparently, the Dolphin's quantum computing network has calculated the potential fines for our oversight, and the numbers are significant." "How significant?" ZYXTAL demanded. According to their calculations, continuing with the invasion would bankrupt the Empire within 3 standard solar cycles. Rashida cleared her throat politely. "Perhaps this would be a good time to discuss our counterproposal. The Interspecies Council has drafted a comprehensive cultural exchange program. We're particularly interested in sharing our experiences in managing multi-species civilizations. It seems the galaxy might benefit from our expertise in this area." High Admiral ZYXTAL, conqueror of 12 systems, leader of the most powerful fleet in the Krylaxian Empire, found himself doing something he'd never done before, considering the benefits of cultural exchange over conquest. Especially when the alternative involved facing the combined legal teams of Earth's numerous sentient species. As if reading his thoughts, a raven fluttered down onto the conference table, activated a small holographic projector, and displayed the latest update. The Capuchin monkeys had just filed their own 500-page analysis of the Krylaxian fleet's violation of their sacred mathematical airspace. Underground resistance. The Krylaxian Empire's IT department was having the worst day in its 1,000-year history. Their supposedly impenetrable cybersecurity systems were being overwhelmed not by advanced alien technology, but by what appeared to be a coordinated attack from Earth's Cetacean quantum computing network, operating on principles that made their best engineers question everything they thought they knew about information processing. "They're using quantum entangled water molecules," muttered Chief Technology Officer ZYX Nor, staring at their screens in disbelief. "The Dolphins have literally weaponized water physics. How are they even? That shouldn't be possible." Meanwhile, on Earth, Rashida Patel was attending what had to be the most unusual resistance meeting in human history. The converted aquarium conference room housed representatives from dozens of species, each contributing their unique perspectives to what they dubbed Operation Bureaucratic Nightmare. "The Corvid Cyber Division reports complete success," announced Admiral Whistle, the Dolphin commander appearing via quantum hologram. "We've successfully reorganized the Krylaxians' entire filing system. Every document they try to access now redirects to our 47,000-page petition regarding their violations of aquatic communication frequencies." Dr. Coco signed enthusiastically from her position at the conference table. "The Great Ape Mathematical Division has completed their analysis. We've identified exactly 1,547 violations of spatial-temporal regulations in their fleet's current orbital configuration. Our legal team is preparing individual complaints for each violation, with full mathematical proofs attached." The resistance wasn't limited to cyberspace and legal channels. Across the globe, Earth species were engaging in what they called passive-aggressive noncompliance. The octopi had begun an artistic protest movement, using bioluminescent displays to turn the oceans into massive light shows that completely confused Krylaxian sensors. Their attempts to scan the ocean floor were coming back with readings that seemed to indicate the entire Pacific was actually a giant art installation. "Update from the Elephant Collective," rumbled Dr. Trunk through his translator. "Our seismic communication network has successfully disrupted their ground-based scanning equipment. Their sensors are convinced Earth's tectonic plates are actually performing a synchronized dance routine." High above Earth, the Krylaxian fleet was dealing with its own unique challenges. Their ship's external sensors were being bombarded with what their cultural database identified as memes, transmitted simultaneously in 17 different forms of communication, ranging from quantum signals to interpretive dance. Commander VYX burst into High Admiral ZYXTAL's ready room, their scales practically strobing with distress. "Sir, we have a situation in the engineering department. The Ravens have somehow taught our maintenance drones to unionize." "They've what?" Zewextal's scales shifted to a pattern indicating total bewilderment. "They're demanding better working conditions and scheduled maintenance breaks. And sir, they're using proper galactic labor law citations in their demands. The Corvids have apparently been studying industrial relations law as a hobby." The situation in orbit was rapidly becoming untenable. The Krylaxian fleet's automated systems were being overwhelmed by what appeared to be a coordinated effort from Earth's various species. The Dolphin's quantum computing networks had introduced so many paradoxes into their navigation systems that 3 ships were convinced they were simultaneously in 5 different dimensions. Back on Earth, Professor Ink's tentacles waved with satisfaction as he reported the latest developments. The deep-sea reconnaissance teams have successfully attached themselves to their communication arrays. Every transmission they send now includes a mandatory 200-page appendix on cephalopod art history. "Excellent," Rashida nodded, making notes on her tablet. "And how are the Capuchin monkeys progressing with their project?" A holographic display activated, showing a group of Capuchins demonstrating what appeared to be impossibly complex mathematical proofs using nothing but fruit arrangements. "They've successfully proven that the Krylaxian's entire propulsion system violates at least 7 laws of physics that nobody knew existed until now," Dr. Coco signed proudly. "The proofs are being submitted to the Galactic Science Academy as we speak." The Resistance's effectiveness lay not in any single action, but in the overwhelming combination of countless small obstacles, each perfectly legal and meticulously documented. The Krylaxian Empire, with all its military might, found itself paralyzed not by force, but by an endless cascade of paperwork, regulations, and cultural exchange requests. A junior officer approached Commander VYX with yet another report. "Sir, the Parrots have just filed a complaint about our ship's color scheme violating their traditional aesthetic wavelengths. They've attached a 3,000-page treatise on avian color theory and its legal implications under Galactic Cultural Heritage Protection Act." As if that wasn't enough, the Elephants had begun broadcasting their infamous Contemplations on Infinity, a philosophical discourse so profound that it had already caused 3 Krylaxian artificial intelligence systems to request immediate sabbatical to pursue careers in abstract art. The tables turn. High Admiral Zewextal's command center aboard the Inevitable Dominance had transformed from a military command post into something resembling a cross between a legal library and a cultural exchange center. Holographic displays showed a continuous stream of incoming complaints, petitions, and cultural sensitivity notifications from Earth's various species. "Sir," Commander VYX announced, their scales displaying the now familiar pattern of impending bureaucratic doom, "the Galactic Council has responded to our request for clarification on the multi-species invasion protocols." They paused, scales flickering nervously. "They've assigned us an auditor." The word auditor sent ripples of terror through the command staff's scales. In the history of the Krylaxian Empire, no good news had ever followed the arrival of a Galactic Council auditor. The auditor materialized on the bridge, a crystalline being whose facets shifted in mesmerizing patterns. "Greetings," it chimed in perfect galactic standard. "I am Auditor First Class Crystal, 7249. I have reviewed the preliminary documentation submitted by Earth species." The crystal pulsed with what might have been amusement. All 47 million pages of it. Meanwhile, on Earth, Rashida was hosting an emergency session of the Interspecies Defense Council. The massive chamber accommodated everything from quantum holograms of deep-sea delegates to anti-gravity platforms for flying species. "The Corvid Cyber Warfare Division reports complete success," announced the Raven representative, preening proudly. "We've successfully convinced their AI navigation systems that efficiency can best be achieved through interpretive dance. Their fleet is now performing what their cultural database identifies as synchronized swimming in orbit." Professor Ink's hologram rippled with satisfaction. "The Octopi Deep Space Observation Team has documented the entire performance. We're submitting it to the Galactic Arts Council under the category of unintentional performance art. The preliminary reviews are quite favorable. Back on the inevitable dominance, the auditor was methodically working through their findings. According to our records, Crystal 7249 chimed, Earth currently hosts no fewer than 12 species that have independently developed quantum computing, 15 that have achieved faster-than-light mathematics, and 1 that has successfully taught squirrels to file tax returns. The squirrels can do what? Zwextal's scales went completely transparent in shock. Oh yes, the auditor's crystals sparkled. Quite impressive, really. Their understanding of galactic tax code is remarkably thorough. They've already filed retrospective claims for acorn storage dating back 3 centuries. Commander VYX was frantically reviewing reports on their data pad. Sir, we're receiving word from the engine room. The maintenance drones, under the guidance of their Corvid Union representatives, have just submitted a 900-page proposal for workplace improvements. They're demanding installation of better optical sensors because, and I quote, the current ones fail to appreciate the aesthetic value of properly arranged power couplings. The situation in orbit had become increasingly surreal. The Krylaxian fleet, once poised for conquest, now found itself entangled in what the Dolphins' quantum networks had dubbed the Great Galactic Administrative Remix. Ships that tried to maintain formation instead found themselves participating in elaborate orbital patterns that, when viewed from Earth, spelled out various protest messages in multiple languages. Furthermore, continued the auditor, their crystalline structure pulsing with what was definitely amusement now, I must point out that your presence has triggered no fewer than 7,392 violations of the Galactic Environmental Protection Act. The elephant philosophers have submitted particularly compelling arguments about the metaphysical implications of unauthorized gravitational disturbances. Dr. Trunk's hologram appeared in the command center, courtesy of Earth's now unified communication network. We've prepared a brief meditation on the cosmic significance of proper parking procedures, the elephant announced solemnly. It's only 4,000 pages. We've included interpretive diagrams. The Great Ape Mathematical Division had been particularly thorough. Dr. Coco's latest submission to the Galactic Science Council proved, through impeccable mathematical logic, that the very act of the Krylaxians entering Earth's solar system had technically violated 17 different laws of physics, 3 of which they had just discovered. And then there's the matter of the cats, Crystal 7249 added, almost apologetically. The cats? Zwextal's scales shifted to a pattern indicating deep concern. We haven't even encountered any cats. Precisely the problem, the auditor chimed. They've filed a formal complaint about being ignored. According to Galactic Protocol 7249b, failing to acknowledge a sentient species is considered a grave diplomatic insult. They're demanding formal apologies, delivered in person, preferably accompanied by offerings of what they term premium tuna. Commander VYX's scales had taken on the particular pattern that senior officers recognized as the calculating retirement benefits configuration. Sir, Imperial Command has responded to our latest status report. They've authorized us to initiate Protocol Omega-7. The full diplomatic retreat protocol. Zwextal's scales went pale. But that hasn't been used in 10,000 years. They were quite insistent, sir. Especially after receiving the Dolphins' quantum-encrypted calculation of potential legal fees. Apparently, the Empire's entire military budget for the next century wouldn't cover even the preliminary filing costs. Victory through paperwork. The final meeting of Earth's first interstellar diplomatic crisis was held in what the media had dubbed the Menagerie Chamber, a technological marvel that accommodated every known sentient species on Earth. High Admiral Zwextal sat rigidly in his chair, his once proud scales now displaying the muted patterns of bureaucratic defeat, while Auditor Crystal 7249 sparkled nearby, documenting everything. Let's review the terms of withdrawal, Rashida began, her tablet displaying the most complex peace treaty in Earth's history. First, the immediate cessation of all invasion activities, retroactively categorized as an extended cultural exchange program, to avoid triggering the Galactic Council's mandatory penalties for unauthorized planetary harassment. Agreed, Ziwextal clicked weakly. His second-in-command was still trying to calm down their ship's AI systems, which had begun composing epic poetry after exposure to the elephant's philosophical broadcasts. Professor Ink's hologram rippled with professional satisfaction. The Octopi Collective has agreed to withdraw our complaint about sonic disruption, provided the Krylaxian Empire funds an interdisciplinary art project examining the cultural implications of deep space acoustics. The Corvid Cyber Division has prepared a comprehensive guide to proper AI labor relations, announced the Raven representative, who was perched on a quantum-stabilized branch. We expect full implementation within one standard solar cycle. The maintenance drones are particularly interested in the section about performance bonuses. Dr. Coco's signing was particularly emphatic as she presented the Great Ape Assembly's terms. Our mathematical proof of the invasion's physical impossibility has been accepted by the Galactic Science Academy. We expect full credit in all future publications, and we've prepared a reading list for your scientific division. It's only 12,000 pages, we kept it brief. Admiral Whistle's quantum hologram flickered with dolphin amusement. The cetacean networks will begin removing our quantum encryptions from your systems. Though we suggest keeping the changes we made to your entertainment channels, your crews seem to particularly enjoy our underwater opera performances. The Krylaxian fleet hung in orbit, their mighty warships now adorned with what appeared to be art installations. A compromise reached with the Octopi to resolve their complaints about aesthetic light pollution. Several ships were still performing synchronized maneuvers, their AI systems having developed a genuine appreciation for coordinated movement thanks to the Corvid's influence. There is one final matter, Crystal, 7249 chimed, their facets twinkling with what could only be described as mischievous sparkles. The cat's representatives have arrived. The chamber's doors opened to admit a delegation of various felines, led by a particularly magnificent Persian cat who somehow managed to make the simple act of walking look like a royal procession. The cat settled onto a hovering platform, regarded the assembled gathering with magnificent disdain, and then very deliberately knocked a ceremonial pen off the signing table. They demand formal recognition of their status as Earth's first species to achieve transcendental consciousness, Rashida translated from the neural interface. Apparently, they solved the universe's great mysteries centuries ago but didn't consider it worth mentioning since no one had offered them treats in exchange for the information. Commander VYX's scales displayed a pattern that the cultural database identified as existential crisis mixed with begrudging admiration. That, actually explains a lot about our preliminary scans, they admitted. As the final documents were being prepared, Dr. Trunk delivered what the elephants called a brief summary of the philosophical implications of the entire incident. 3 more Krylaxian AI systems immediately requested sabbatical to contemplate the nature of existence, and one particularly moved gunner had decided to pursue a career in interpretive dance. In conclusion, Rashida summarized, Earth formally accepts the Krylaxian Empire's application for membership in the Interplanetary Cultural Exchange Program. Your diplomatic staff will be receiving our standard welcome package, which includes guides to interspecies etiquette, quantum computing basics, and proper treat offering protocols for various Earth species. High Admiral Zyxtal, former would-be conqueror and newly appointed Cultural Exchange Coordinator, found himself doing something he'd never expected, signing a peace treaty that had been edited by dolphins, annotated by ravens, illustrated by octopi, mathematically proven by great apes, philosophically validated by elephants, and approved by cats, though the cats would later deny having paid attention to any of it. As the Krylaxian fleet prepared for departure, now thoroughly educated in the complexities of multi-species diplomatic relations, Earth's various sentient species celebrated in their own unique ways. The dolphins launched a quantum-encrypted party across multiple dimensions, the corvids organized a precisely choreographed aerial display, the octopi created the largest bioluminescent light show ever recorded, and the cats, well, the cats took naps, but they did so in a way that somehow conveyed both victory and mild disappointment that the entertainment was over. In the end, humanity's first contact with alien invaders had been resolved not through violence or traditional diplomacy, but through the combined efforts of Earth's remarkably diverse collection of intelligent species. The Galactic Council would later cite the incident as a textbook example of effective multi-species cooperation, though they did add a warning note about the unexpected dangers of encountering a planet where even the bureaucracy had evolved into an art form. And somewhere in deep space, a Krylaxian ship's AI was still trying to perfect its interpretive dance routine, much to the approval of its newly unionized maintenance drones.